All right, let's go over this functional group vocabulary review. Make sure that you have any questions answered that you might have had as you were completing the assessment. Our first question, blank molecules must contain carbon-carbon or carbon-hydrogen bonds. The correct answer here is D, organic. An organic molecule, by definition, must have carbon in it, and that carbon must bond to either other carbon or hydrogen atoms. It could have both, it could have just one or the other, but it must have carbon, and that carbon has to bond to either other carbons or hydrogens. In question 2, we have two small molecules are joined together by the process of, hopefully for this, you put A, dehydration synthesis. How do I know it's dehydration synthesis? Look at what's happening. The small molecules are being joined together. Synthesis means to build. So dehydration synthesis is the process of building molecules or joining two smaller molecules together to make a larger one. In question 3, A or N blank is a large molecule made of smaller repeating subunits. Correct answer for 3 is going to be E, polymer. And remember, poly means many. Mer, M-E-R, just means a unit of something, a piece of something. So polymer is a large molecule made out of many small pieces of molecules. And remember, the small ones are called monomers. We'll get to that. That's our answer choice in the next section. Okay, the next question we have, number 4, oxygen that we breathe, which is O2, is an example of a C, inorganic molecule. It's not an organic molecule because it's just oxygen bonded to oxygen. There's no carbon in there, so we don't have any carbon-carbon or carbon-hydrogen bonds. Number 5, a large molecule can be split into two smaller molecules through the process of, the correct answer is B, hydrolysis. Hydro means water, you have to add water, and lysis means to split or to break. So hydrolysis is the breaking down or splitting of large molecules into smaller pieces. That brings us to question 6. We have an image for question 6. We have a bunch of this molecule A on the left and molecule B on the right. And the difference between them is that molecule B over here, you can see there's lines connecting them. So this is one large molecule that was made out of all of these small pieces of molecule A on the left. So that makes molecule B a polymer, because it is one large molecule made out of many small subunits. Each of these green ovals is one subunit. So 8 of them together make up the many subunits of the polymer that is molecule B. In question 7, blank requires the addition of a water molecule. That is going to be B, hydrolysis. Remember, we add water for the purpose of breaking a bond and splitting a large molecule. So if you put A, dehydration synthesis, make sure you remember that the dehydration means water is removed. If you're dehydrated, you are lacking water. So that's the removal of water. Question 7 is talking about adding water, and that would be B, hydrolysis. And then in question number 8, the process shown in this image, what are we doing? We have H here, we have OH here. They're on two separate molecules, but they are being removed. This arrow means this is going away. So this is the removal of water, and it results in the bonding together of those two subunits. So the removal of water and bonding of two small molecules is A, dehydration synthesis. So question 8 is an image that's showing you the process of dehydration synthesis. We are removing water, and we're taking two separate small molecules, joining them together to make one big one. All right, now let's move on to questions 9 through 15. In this section, we still have dehydration, synthesis, and hydrolysis in there. Those are important ideas to make sure that you know. But now we are also going to talk about things like hydrophilic and hydrophobic. So let's look at number 9. A molecule that is blank will repel water. That is going to be dehydrophobic or water-fearing. If it repels water, it does not mix with water. So that's going to be hydrophobic. Number 10, during blank, 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogens are removed from the molecules being joined. Well, what is 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogens? That is a molecule of water. So we're talking about water being removed. This results in the joining of molecules, so this is going to be A, dehydration synthesis. This is exactly what we just saw in the picture up here for number 8. Number 8 is showing you in pictures what the process looks like, and number 10 is describing it in words. So 8 and 10, both of those are talking about dehydration synthesis. In number 11, molecules that consist entirely of CH bonds. We have carbon-hydrogen bonds. What do we know about those? They are covalent, and they are non-polar covalent bonds. CH bonds are always non-polar. If something is non-polar, it does not mix with water, so that molecule would have to be dehydrophobic. Hydrophobic is not going to mix with water, and anything that has carbon-hydrogen bonds, because they're non-polar, they don't mix with water. Polar things mix with other polar things, but they do not mix with non-polar things. All right, in question number 12, a blank is a small molecule that can be used as a building block for larger molecules. This is our definition for a monomer. We talked about polymer in the last section. Monomer, mono means one, so we have one small subunit. If they are all built together, that makes a polymer. So back up here in question 6, when we had molecule A, all of those little separate green ovals, those were all monomers, and they were built together to make molecule B, which is a polymer. All right, number 13, polar molecules are C, hydrophilic. Hydrophilic means water-loving. Water is polar, so other polar molecules are going to be attracted to it. So we would call them hydrophilic. Number 14, a large molecule can undergo the process of blank when water is added. So we have a large molecule, we add water to it, that is going to be B, hydrolysis. Hydro for the addition of water, lysis for the splitting. We're splitting a large molecule and ultimately making smaller molecules as a result. And number 15, last question in this section, molecules that have many hydroxyl groups, hydroxyl is OH, are, the answer to this question is hydrophilic. And how do we know that? OH bonds, those are polar covalent bonds, just like we talked about in our water POGL. Oxygen is electronegative, so it holds the electrons close to it, giving it a partial negative charge, and that gives the hydrogen a partial positive charge. So every hydroxyl group on this molecule is polar. That means it's a polar molecule and it would dissolve or be attracted to water, therefore it would be hydrophilic. Okay, our last section here, this is specific to functional groups. So if you are still unsure about your functional groups, you definitely want to go back and look at that second half of the notes presentation where we were talking about each individual functional group and its chemical properties. Number 16, blank is the only hydrophobic functional group. The correct answer here is D, methyl. Methyl is hydrophobic because it consists of carbon-hydrogen bonds. And remember, carbon-hydrogen bonds are always nonpolar. Number 17, blank is the only functional group that acts as a base. The correct answer here is A, amine. Amine is that NH2 group, and what it does is it tends to attract hydrogen ions, or H+, out of solution. And remember, that is what a base does. Anything that takes hydrogen ions out of a solution is basic, so that means that A, our amine group, is the functional group that would act as a base. Number 18, sugars and alcohols are characterized by having many blank groups. Sugars and alcohols have lots of hydroxyl groups. C is the correct answer for number 18. And that is simply just a matter of memorizing the function of a hydroxyl group in order to know what kind of molecule that it's in. Number 19, the blank group is often abbreviated COOH. This is going to be our carboxyl group. B is the correct answer for number 19. It is a C, which is carbon, double bonded to one oxygen, and then single bonded to OH. So this OH is kind of like a hydroxyl group, but it's part of this larger functional group here. And this larger functional group is what we call carboxyl. Number 20, the blank group has a -2 electrical charge. That's going to be E, your phosphate group. There's so many oxygens in that phosphate group, and remember, they like to hog electrons. Oxygens are very electronegative, and that's what gives a phosphate group its -2 charge. The blank group is often abbreviated as NH2. I mentioned that earlier. That's A, the amine group. The amine group is a nitrogen with 2 hydrogens bonded to it. And finally, question 22, the transfer of a blank group is involved in the reactions that provide energy to a cell. That's going to be E, the phosphate group. If you have ever heard of ATP, ATP has 3 phosphate groups, and that's how it works. Transferring that phosphate group allows ATP to provide energy for the cellular reaction that's taking place. So hopefully this recap helped you, if you missed any of these questions, helped you to understand why the correct answer is what it is. You are certainly welcome, if you still have remaining questions about this, to ask about those questions in class. So just make a note of what questions you have, and we can discuss them next time you come into class. Hopefully you found this to be helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.